Testing, 1, 2, 3. Am I coming through?
Yes.
Welcome to Hyperfixation of the Week. I'm Jordan, and I'm so incredibly sorry. Oh, and Phoenix is not sorry.
Because they're not here.
Because they're not here. Victoria?
I am Victoria, and I am slightly less sorry about this.
And I'm Nova, and we never apologize for anything.
I'm well aware. Now, Nova.
Yes.
Why are we apologizing to the audience today?
Oh, okay, so I'm very happy you asked that, because today we are discussing one of our favorite topics, Homestuck.
Homestuck.
We have down the mic.
We have a list.
Gracious goodness me.
Am I that loud?
I don't know. The one episode, the other one where
I'll
you
move
were
it a
here,
little bit away from my face for y'all.
I think it might have been your gain, yeah.
Yeah, the last time you were here when I was trying to edit the audio, it literally would not let me limit the audio because of how loud you were. I don't know how
I think I'm
happened.
going to turn your gain down in advance.
Smart. That's a very smart move, to be quite honest. Hold
Yeah.
on. We need to open up our Google Doc.
All right. You do need to open your Google
I
Doc.
still
While
need
you
to
do
post on
that,
the Discord.
who would like to introduce the very, very basic concept of the topic? Well,
All right, I can get this. Okay, so Homestuck is a webcomic that ran, I don't remember how long it ran for, but it ran in like the early 2010s.
Ran from 2009.
That's still the early 2010s.
April 13th, 2009.
To like 2016, if I remember right.
Yeah.
It ran for a few years, and it was a webcomic with over 8,000 pages. Some of you may hear the word Homestuck and immediately cringe and turn off your radio. Now, I swear it's not as
I
bad.
would like you to back up. I'm turning your gain down, and it's still spiking, and I don't know how you're doing that.
It's the excitement.
No, because I'm right here and I'm excited, and it doesn't happen with
Oh,
me.
wait.
We
Try
are.
now. Try now.
How loud do you want me to be?
Okay, you're good.
I'm
We just
good?
need it
Okay.
to not spike out the audio.
I will spike as much as I want. I am a pro Smash Brothers character.
Of course you are.
Spiking is essential to my strat. But anyways.
All right, guys, let's...
get back to
Homestuck
the
is a
topic.
comic about 4 kids who... What the fuck did I just say?
4 kids.
Oh, there's our one
There's our one F-bomb for the
Yeah.
episode.
What, to keep this PG-13?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
About 4 kids who play a game to essentially create a universe. And also, shenanigans ensue.
And oh my god.
There's so many
To
shenanigans.
say there's 4 characters is severely...
Well, I said there's 4 kids who play
4
a game.
kids.
There's more than 4 characters. There's like... I'm
we're
about to
looking at,
start
like,
counting on my fingers.
We're looking at like
8
40 main ones.
At least.
No, like 35 main ones plus all of the side characters, but all the characters are important.
Are you including the ancestors as part of the main cast? Because if so, you have like... or wait, you said 30 main ones, right?
Honeys, as someone who actually legitimately knows nothing about Homestuck, I'm having a stroke. Can we back it up a little
Yes,
bit?
I just
Okay,
had to
okay.
make that statement.
So, there are 4 kids who play a game.
Cool.
In order of introduction, we have John, Rose, Dave, and Jade. Shout out.
Where'd you get your name?
So, I got my name from Jade. From Jade Homestuck. And so did my partner. And one of her alters got their name from Dave Homestuck.
Oh my god.
You guys.
You guys
We're
are
a little
such
bit obsessed.
nerds.
Okay.
Shut up.
I know, I'm a nerd too.
Continue.
Anyways, I forgot what we were talking about.
We were
so-
talking about the 4 kids that you...
Yes,
you-
the 4 kids who
you
play
know.
a game.
The 4 kids who play a game.
They play a game, which it starts off kind of like The Sims a little bit, and then it gets crazy. Imps and trolls start showing up. Meteors start hitting the earth.
The important part is that The Sims is controlling someone else's life.
Oh yeah, you essentially play The Sims, but it's instead of it being like a fake sim, your sim is your friend, and it's great. You can like mess with the architecture, accidentally throw bathtubs through walls. You know how you play The Sims.
I would say that's accurate.
I'm
It is
so
pretty
I'm so
accurate.
sorry to distract, but someone left their soundboard open on the stream deck, and it is taking every bone in my body to keep me from pressing the one that says pipe.
Hit the pipe.
Because I know it's going to be a metal pipe sound, and should I press it?
Press it. so loud.
That destroyed.
Okay, I say we no longer hit the
I
soundboard
say
again.
we no longer hit the soundboard.
Dearest listeners, I am dearly,
This episode is just gonna be us
I'm
saying
blaming
I'm
Jordan
sorry.
for that one.
I'm dearly,
so sorry.
dearly sorry. Is there a way to turn down the volume on this soundboard, possibly?
How about we don't play around with the soundboard? That's my vote.
Yeah, that's my vote. We do need to make our own soundboard.
I'm very upset that you guys encouraged me to do that. Also, we do need a soundboard, and we could probably work on that today.
I don't know what it would contain.
I just got an at
Vine
from
boom.
Nova saying my fucking ears.
That's our second F-bomb. If we get a
Oh,
third, Nova gets a prize.
Oh, am I banned?
Actually, no, we were told we are allowed to actually curse.
We are allowed to curse,
Try and
but
keep it PG-13.
Yeah.
Ian told us to keep it to a minimum.
Keep it to a minimum. We're technically allowed to curse. It's more
I will
about
try
the
and not swear
content
again.
of our talking.
I cannot make many promises.
It's less about your words, more about your content. So
Which we're going to have
Understood.
to try to limit as much as possible in this episode specifically.
Oh, okay, so we can't talk about one part of the trolls.
No, we can talk about it. You just got to be very vague about it.
Understood.
how about this?
Speaking of the trolls.
Can I just give you a baseline to work off of?
Sure.
The following things I know about Homestuck. There was a cosplayer who super glued fake horns to their forehead. There was a cosplayer who took a bath in Sharpie ink to dye their skin gray. There have been tattoos, less wise tattoos. I've heard about questionable body mods in relation to this content. And generally a bad rep.
I can't believe you're dissing someone's gender-affirming surgery. Shaking my head. That is a big scale, mate.
I
Yeah,
don't think it was gender affirming, Jade.
I made this by hand. You guys can't see this because this is an audio format, but I was showing Jade something very important that will probably get discussed later.
I have a little plush of
There's a little plush.
of a creature.
A creature.
It's not a creature. It's basically the equivalent of like a teddy bear for them.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
there is a little plush of a creature called a scalemate.
Okay.
And he is currently sitting on our table with a lesbian pride flag stuck through his head.
Because he's crocheted and there are like little gaps between the
You
between
didn't
the
have to
yarn.
specify crochet. It would have been way funnier if they think I just stabbed him through
I
the
know,
skull.
but I don't want to talk about. I don't want to like encourage plushie mutilation on this. So to clarify, it is crocheted, homemade, and is stuck between the holes in the yarn.
It's also the first thing I ever crocheted.
Really?
Oh,
Not
you
very
made
well
that?
made. Yeah, I made that.
Oh, I thought someone made that for you.
No, I made that.
All right.
Nice.
Back
That's
on
pretty
topic.
good.
So basically, I've gotten a very bad rep about Homestuck,
I will say,
and I want you guys to defend it.
I will say, up until that Homestuck 2 sucked. You cannot convince me otherwise.
Homestuck
Oh, it
two
actually
sucked.
started updating
There's
again.
a
It
Homestuck.
did?
Yes.
Homestuck
Entirely
2?
new team.
Yeah,
Yes.
so basically after, or
I
someone,
have hot takes about Homestuck
someone
too.
new took
you are
it
not
over.
gonna like them.
someone new took it over.
No, it's James Roach. He was on the original team.
I meant Hussey was not the one writing it primarily anymore.
Fair.
But I will admit that was very, very questionable, especially with the content.
What,
Homestuck was always questionable.
Yes,
in its
but
content.
Homestuck 2 is even worse.
what about the content?
It's the original one didn't have any trigger warnings.
What
What do you mean? There is murder and like many
No,
discussions.
I meant like they never had to actively put them, but for Homestuck 2,
What trigger warnings are on Homestuck 2?
I should not mention them.
I am concerned on what trigger warnings you are thinking of needing to mention because there is very little that I think is in Homestuck 2 that is not in the original Homestuck.
And not to the same level.
Sometimes I wonder if people read Homestuck.
I did. I read it like
I know
three
you
times.
did. I know you did.
Point is, Homestuck 2 is where it started to kind of fall apart. That's a lie. A little
That's
bit
a lie.
before that.
Homestuck fell apart on page 1.
Yeah, but particularly so. But point is, a lot of the bad reputation for Homestuck just comes from the memes of a couple of people that really did take it too far, which is the same case for a lot of
That's
popular
how
media.
it works for fandoms.
That's
There are
how
always
it
people
works
who
for fandoms.
That's
really-
how it worked for Steven Universe.
But I
especially.
feel like
That's how it
Homestuck-
works.
just didn't like Steven Universe because of the gays.
That's how it works for huh? To be fair, my friend's mom, and my friend might be listening, my friend might not. If she is, hello, Mackenzie. Her mom didn't like Steven Universe because she thought Garnet looked too sexualized.
People will see a woman and say she's too sexualized.
Which, to be fair, Garnet changed my life for the better, but also...
Thanks for admitting that on the air.
I will admit that Steven Universe probably turned me gay.
And
if it didn't, you know what did?
I'm pledging allegiance to the lesbian flag right now.
My Little Pony, friendship is magic.
Oh
All right,
God.
let's move on.
Let's back to Homestuck. Point is, Homestuck got a pretty bad rap. I must say, it's not as bad as people say it is. It is definitely pretty bad, but it's not as bad as people say it is.
Yeah, it's very much the fandom. Anyways, let's get back on topic. I have a list here. I'm going to just very briefly read over the entire list because we're not going to get
not going to get through this whole thing.
I know. So, we got What is Homestuck? We already covered that. I didn't make a playlist.
I thought you said you made a playlist.
So
we were going to, but we never got the chance to.
So here's the problem with trying to make a Homestuck playlist. Most of the music is on Bandicamp.
Yeah, a lot of it's not even on Bandcamp. A good portion of it's just on YouTube because a lot of stuff was not even properly accredited.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Anyways, I'm going to read through this list that we prepared like weeks in advance. What is Homestuck? What are the trolls? Prototyping. Jokes becoming significant. Megalovania. That's right. Megalovania came from Homestuck.
No, it didn't. It came from something else.
No, we have to screw with them. We have to make them think it came from Homestuck.
It came from Homestuck in a way.
Yeah, no, the most popular
the
version.
Toby Fox opera. I'm excluding a word there.
The Toby Fox opera.
Yes.
Can I say the list real quick?
You can. I'll show it. This is how long it is.
That's,
Oh, boy.
that's what she said. Ah.
Yes.
The Toby Fox opera.
Yes. The Green Sun, Ectobiology, The Scratch, Little Cow, the Alpha Kids,
Little
the
Cow.
Beta Kids. We can get to that. That's one of the things I really wanted to discuss. The Dancestors, Guy Fieri and the Insane Clown Posse, Betty Crocker / the
Those-
Batter Witch.
That is such a combination of people.
It very much. They became president. Lord English, Doc Scratch, Beck Noir, The Ultimate Reward, The Outer Rim, Dream Bubbles, one of the Flashes, known as Cascade.
Oh, God,
Circumstantial Simultaneity, Dream Selves, The Alpha Timeline, Grim Dark, and then also Grim Bark.
Okay, how many things are on this list?
Too many.
Do you think
No,
I counted?
I need an actual number. I'm going
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 28 if you include 2 sub-bullets.
You have 45 minutes. Divide it as you please amongst these items.
Okay, well, first we're going to talk about the trolls.
Okay.
So the trolls are a race of bug people that their technology is bugs, and I love them for that. They created what would be considered our universe. That's in big air quotes there, by the way. They created our universe and were meant to be the gods of it. However, they screwed up and were
Really
not able to
poorly.
access it.
They screwed up really poorly.
Really badly. I mean, it's not their fault, but it also
Yeah.
kind of is, but also kind of isn't.
The timeline of Homestuck is a giant.
It is
It is a giant
shenanigans. What are you writing over there?
I'm taking notes.
It is
You're
a
taking.
giant.
Oh, yeah, this will be on the test.
It is a
Oh,
giant
God,
self-fulfilling
no.
prophecy, basically.
Yes. Oh, I didn't even write down time loops on here. It's okay.
The what?
The time loops. The stable time loops. We'll get to
Okay,
that.
Cool. As opposed to the unstable ones.
There
Oh
are
yeah, that's
unstable
called a
ones.
Doom timeline.
Yeah, those are the ones where everyone dies.
cool.
Not necessarily.
Cool.
Enough people die that it's impossible to continue.
Most times people die. However, consider the fact that the 3 pillars. We're not going to get into that.
So,
Anyways.
actually, speaking of characters dying, you know how there's those shows where it's like, don't get attached to any character, you don't know if they're going to be the one to die next. This is the opposite. This one is, go ahead, get attached,
They'll still be the one to die next.
and they're probably going to come back to life. Most of the
big
time they do.
if. Well, I
Most-
mean,
most of
big
the time they do.
asterisk attached.
There are a couple that, by the nature of the story, cannot.
Even when they're dead, they're not entirely dead.
Yeah.
But just keep in mind, there is a big asterisk assigned to any time a character dies. Anyways, speaking of prototyping, I think we talked enough about the trolls.
No, we didn't. We didn't mention that they're based off of the Zodiac.
Oh yeah, the
important
Zodiac.
part, and
if
the
you're a
blood
Libra,
colors.
you're Terezi pilled. I don't make the rules. I just write them.
No, so basically they have this hierarchy based on the color of their blood. And there's some trolls that basically, it's a color spectrum. It goes from red all the way to
Is not a part of the spectrum. Red
when
is a mutation.
When I say red, I'm talking about the rust.
The rust bloods.
The rust red.
Tavros,
I'm
my
not
beloved.
talking about bright red. I'm talking about rust red. Rust red all the way up to fuchsia. Or is it magenta?
What?
Is it fuchsia or magenta?
Fuchsia.
Fuchsia. So basically, the rust is lowest of the low. And then fuchsia is
The highest of the,
the
high.
the royalty.
royal blood.
There's only a couple of them at a time.
And also, when you get to a certain tier of being royalty, you can also breathe underwater, because sometimes that's just something you get. You know how most of the world's covered in water? Yeah, you know, the rich people get to live underwater. The bourgeois.
The rich people actually didn't get to live underwater. Let's talk about the site of the Titanic and about the visitation. No, I'm kidding. I'm not about to take that detour. But let's just say the rich people do not breathe
A
underwater.
couple other random things.
Is it too soon to make that joke?
No.
Never.
Yeah, rich people don't
It's-
breathe underwater.
Exactly.
Basically,
Rich people do not survive underwater.
as this one mentioned before, there is also a red blood color that is considered like
A mutation.
mutation. They are like hellspawn.
They're not
Or
considered
not actually
hellspawn.
hellspawn. Point is they don't like them. They try to kill them. There used to be lime green, but they got like annihilated.
I don't remember that bit.
No, there is supposed to be lime green, but they got annihilated because apparently their psychic powers were too strong.
Oh, okay.
And it's implied that the cancers are supposed to be the lime green because it is implied that the lime greens became the red bloods.
I do not... Was this in the walk-arounds?
No.
Where was this implied then?
Some conversation between Karkat and I forgot which the evil cherub thing is.
I'm pleased to announce you've officially lost me.
Yeah, this
Oh,
gets
you're-
really
okay.
So
complicated.
let me get this straight. So there's a spectrum of blood,
Yes.
and on the spectrum from rust to fuchsia is your hierarchy, and also
Yes.
lime green is a former identity that may or may not be red, which is
No. It is
it's exterminated.
they exterminated them because their
They were
psychic
too
powers were too
powerful.
strong.
And
When did
And I assume
Karkat
this theory
ever
is-
talk to any of the cherubs?
I assume this theory is at
What
least
is the evil
partially.
one?
Yeah, Caliborn?
Wait,
Yeah, he talked to Caliborn.
ladies,
What?
ladies. I assume that this theory is at least based partially on the
It's
fact.
not a theory. It is talked about in the
It's
comic.
a game theory. You need to show me the page.
Actually,
for this
actually no.
after the fact.
The lime green bloods becoming red bloods is a theory,
Color
but it is heavily
inversion.
implied.
You're gonna need to send
Yeah,
me some pages
but
after the fact so we can discuss
Red
this.
and lime green are color inverts, so that
yes,
makes
there's
sense.
also that part.
That is true. There is that bit.
And I'm gonna be honest, nothing in this comic happens without a reason. Even if it originally was without a reason, the author writes it into the story somehow.
That's not entirely true.
Except for some really funky
on to
stuff.
the next thing that I have on the list. Well, it's not the next thing, but jokes becoming significant are incredibly essential to Homestuck. In the early days of Homestuck, suggestions would be taken from the audience for actions characters would take, and that would cause essentially a bit to happen of some sort, and these bits would essentially determine the entire outcome of the comic in some ways. Like, for example, the lime blood stuff is from Hive Swap. I have a third party source.
Okay.
It's from Hive Swap, as is the mutant stuff.
Okay.
Anyways,
I knew I heard it somewhere.
yeah, so it's probably from Hive Swap then. I haven't played Hive Swap.
I
yet.
only watched someone play like the first chapter.
That's probably where you got it from then.
What is Hive Swap?
We're not going to talk about Hive Swap. 'cause
It's
that
a
is-
spin-off game.
Yeah, spin-off, takes place in the Homestuck universe, but is not explicitly Homestuck. Kind of. Anyways.
And it's debatably canon.
Yeah, so there is one character, and I'm going to use this to transition into that in just a second, who essentially gets a ring of power, but because of the way the ring works, a jester getting its arm cut off, a plush jester getting its arm cut off, means that he is, like, missing an arm. That character is Jack Noir, who inevitably becomes Beck Noir, my beloved. I love that dog boy. He is crazy. I love him so much. Look, can you blame me for loving him? He's fantastic.
I can't. I'm gonna be honest. My favorite characters are the Midnight Crew.
Yes. Okay. So, speaking of the Midnight Crew, this is a good transition to talk about the game itself, I think.
Yeah.
So, in the game that the characters play in Homestuck, after they start playing The Sims, they inevitably enter a different world known as the Medium.
Medium.
And in the Medium, what's taking place is a battle between good and evil. The outcome of the battle does not matter. What matters is that the players are able to get the ultimate reward, which is the creating a new universe. This is how the universe essentially reproduces, right? That's how they describe it.
Yeah. And the universe is a frog.
Yes, all universes are frogs. Not the universe, all universes.
Frogs are very important in this.
You're starting to lose me again. What?
Don't worry, this is going to lose even some Homestuck fans. So, the Midnight Crew consists of 4 characters. It is Spade Slick, also known as Jack Noir, also known as Beck Noir, also known as... There's like another name for them, right?
I feel like I remember there's something else that
there's...
called.
I referred to one of them as Lord Jack, because of something that happens in like the sixth act of Homestuck.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's a thing, by the way. The act structure of Homestuck is just crazy.
There's a lot of sub-acts.
So you're telling me there's 666 acts at least?
No. So basically...
Can I describe the act structure? So, first we have Act 1.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty simple, right? Yeah. Then we have
very
Act
short.
2. Also, there are some intermissions in between, but I'm not going to cover those for the sake of brevity. There's Act 1, there's Act 2, there's Act 3, and then there's Act 4 and Act 5, then there's Act 5, Act 1, then there's Act 5, Act 2, then there is Act 6, then there is Act 6, Act 1, Act 6, Act 2, saying act so many times is going to screw me over.
Point is, it's a bunch of nesting acts.
Yeah.
It's very convoluted for some
once you get to Act 6, then it gets even extremely more convoluted, where the main story no longer takes place in the main acts. They start taking place in the intermission, because then we get like Act 6, Intermission 1, and so on, all the way up to Intermission 6. Then we have Act 7, and then we have Act 8.
How long was Act 7?
Act 7 was like oh no, we don't have Act 8. We have the
Act
prologue.
7 is like a single...
Or the epilogue. Yeah, Act 7 is literally like 2 pages.
So they literally just did sub-acts and then intermissions just to get to the 666, didn't they?
No.
Not entirely. Because I think the bit started with Act 5, because that was split into 2 parts, because it was following Hive Bent, which is the troll equivalent of Homestuck. And then from there, it basically covers the events of them creating the humans universe very quickly. And then Act 5, Act 2 is a continuation of Act 4.
I would like to note that Act 6 takes up, like, at least a third of the entire story.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, Acts 1 through 5, sub-acts included, is like Part 1, and then everything after is Part 2. Thanks to something called the Scratch, which we're going to get to.
We need to talk about the Scratch.
I want to talk about Little Cal first, because I think he is a very good thing to talk about prior.
Yeah.
Because he is the reason why everything is happening, so to speak. Well, technically, Lord English is the reason for Little Cal, which is the reason for everything that happens. Anyways, so, a little bit of context. At around, I think in Act 2 is when Little Cal is first introduced, right?
Whenever Dave shows up.
Because I think Dave is introduced in Act 2 when Rose starts playing the game.
Yeah.
Or no, Act 2 starts with introducing Rose, you see her, and then I think it might be Act 3 when Dave is properly shown on screen.
Possibly.
Or maybe sometime during Act 2.
I feel like he's much earlier, but
He
the first
might be.
couple acts are so short that they just blend together.
Yeah, anyways.
Folks, if you can understand a word they're saying, I think you should just be allowed to graduate now and skip the rest of your degree, because you're clearly smart enough. Because I don't get it.
You need to read it.
We have degrees
Are you?
in Homestuckology.
Yeah, I was gonna like end the show with like, so do you recommend this to me and the audience? And
No.
you would obviously be like, no.
No.
Do not waste your time on that, especially you, because you still have architecture work to do.
I have so much studio work due on Monday. I have to completely redesign my project, and then I have to print out drawings, and then I have to design it in a study model, and then I have to put the study model on the site plan, and then I have to take a picture of that, and then I have to present it all to my studio crit, and then after that she's going to tell me to do it all again.
Now, hold on. Speaking of architecture,
What?
trolls, their entire society is based around building things. Like they build their own houses once they are essentially. Oh, by the way, when trolls are born, they're like these little like insect grub things, and they have to go through essentially the Hunger Games.
They are a very brutal society.
Yeah,
At
and after
least
they go,
the main ones.
I mean, well, the ones that matter to the main story.
Yeah.
We're not gonna talk about Alternia. Or wait, no.
The what?
Or no.
Oh no, Alterna is where they live.
Yeah,
on.
well, what was it called?
The Dancestors.
Oh, Before Us. It was called
Before
Before Us.
Us.
Yes. We're not going to talk about Before Us because that's a whole can of worms to crack open, and we do not have enough time
Basically,
for
it was a parody of internet culture.
that. Alternia?
No, Before Us.
I don't think Before Us was.
Literally every single one of the Dancestors was a parody of internet culture.
At the time, or like
At the time.
Okay,
No.
cool.
Karkat was not Karkat. Whichever,
The Signless?
no.
Cankry?
Cankry was supposed to be, like, the people who go on, like, trigger rants, whatever.
Yeah.
And-
well, those are the Dancestors.
Yeah, I just said that. The Dancestors were...
Oh,
Point
yeah.
is...
Sorry. Yeah, you're right. Anyway, my bad.
Point is... they're, like, semi-important, but not really.
We're not going to talk about them. Anyways, let's get back to what really matters. Talking about, I'm blanking entirely. Talking about troll architecture. So, when trolls survive the Hunger Games, they are essentially given the means to build their own homes, and they are required to make their own homes. And this results in, like, the worst architecture you could ever imagine.
Oh no.
Yeah. Imagine, like, a first-year architecture student getting to build a building.
No, more like a 5-year-old.
What's the one building that all the architecture students are forced to survive in?
HCAD?
Yeah, imagine if HCAD, but all buildings.
I don't like the design and layout of HCAD, and I'm gonna take a 1-minute side swipe on the interior design of HCAD. If you'll
I
all
fully
just...
support this.
Can you hear me? Because my thing is
I can hear
barely
you.
showing up on the thing. Oh, no, now it's working. It was just too far away.
Yeah, I think you both need to get a little closer to your mics, or bring the mic a little closer to you. There you
Okay.
go.
That's
now
a
we're
risky game, to be quite honest.
Go on your side swipe.
So basically, my biggest qualm with the interior of HCAD is that the staircase is such a tire to take. And also, there are only the 2 elevators, and there are 7 floors, and the elevators are constantly going up and down, and the staircases are honestly just a nightmare. But my biggest problem is that every room somehow takes so long to get to, even if they're right there in the middle of the building. Somehow you still have to take forever to get to them. May I point you to the studio that I have to work in, which is on the 5th floor, in a gym, in a loft, which
It's a journey to get there.
It's a journey
It
just to
is.
get to the building itself.
For those familiar with House of Leaves, imagine the labyrinth.
Speaking of leaves.
Speaking of leaves?
No, 'cause
Speaking
I
of
was gonna
leaves.
I was going to talk about, like, the stupid inventory system.
Oh, the
All
Silodex.
right, my minute is up. You may continue.
The Silodex, because I was thinking
But
of
also,
roses.
the fishbowl is a fundamentally weird way to organize our academic
Am I
workers.
gonna have to walk over there and bap you on the head to snooze your architecture rant?
So the fishbowl is kind of fundamentally problematic because it just basically sardines all of the students into a single room together, and normally working in a huge space together would be fine. Like on the 7th floor, they have a big studio where they knocked out all the walls and everyone gets to work in a nice big space. But they're so crammed in together that it fundamentally suffocates your creative energy. Anyways, continue.
Anyways.
Oh yeah, the loft is also always either too hot or too cold.
I think this has been more than a minute.
Okay, it's been a minute now. You can continue.
Okay, so,
Are we going to continue the trolls, or are we going to talk about the Silodex?
I think talking about the Silodex is a great thing to discuss. So, in Homestuck, the characters have inventory systems, and there are numerous ways to manage your inventory. Most of them are basically programming humor to start with. Like, John has a first in, first out, or was it first in, last out?
It's like the Philo FIFO.
Yeah, it's first in, first out, and then first in, last out, and then an array. Rose, which has one of the more reasonable ones, I would say, but still a pain to deal with.
Which was the tree.
Yeah, she has the tree one, and she is only able to either access the roots or to access the leaves. Usually, only accessing the root is a pain, because when you go to do that, then everything else you picked up just falls onto the floor. Dave has probably the most reasonable one, which is the hash Sylladex, where essentially the name of an item is basically turned into a hash, and then depending on how many slots he has, that is turned into a number, and then that goes to an inventory slot. But it becomes shenanigans, because inevitably, when he tries to put stuff in his inventory, he has problems because things have a similar amount of letters. And at first it's just like, I think the vowels are like odds, consonants are even. I think I said that wrong. Regardless though, consonants and vowels are the only things that have like differing values, which are like 1 and 2. So a lot of things end up having the same thing. But then he has to switch that to, I think he switches it to Scrabble scoring, which I thought was really amusing.
Point is, or not point is, but basically all the characters' organization methods are based on their character.
I think my favorite out of all of them is the Miracle Sylladex that Gamzee has, where it is literally just whatever happens, happens. He is the definition of trusting the Alpha timeline. Can we talk about the timelines?
Yes.
Okay, so.
Actually, real quick, small statement about Gamzee. Gamzee is basically the troll equivalent of a stoner.
He's also a what are the people that are fan? Oh, Insane Clown.
He's a juggalo.
Posse. Yes, he's a juggalo.
He's
a huge
juggalo.
Insane Clown Posse fan. Like, he does the face paint and everything.
Oh, I love Insane.
And then he
Clown
does
Posse.
go insane.
He doesn't go insane himself. That's because of Lord English, which is the transition I'm using to talk about Lord English.
No,
now.
that one was because he
it was
went
because
through
of Lord
withdrawal.
English. No, it was in part because of Lord English.
Oh, was
remember? It? He was like holding on to Little Cal.
Oh.
And Lord English didn't remember what Little Cal did to that one version of Spades? Remember?
Vaguely.
Lord Jack?
Vaguely.
Okay, then we're gonna get to that later. So, Lord English is the true antagonist of Homestuck. He is an unkillable demon, which creates the means for his... He retroactively creates the means for his own summoning.
The entire story is a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yes, it is a stable time loop. And he does this through a doll known as Little Cal. Little Cal is the doll that we first see with Dave. Not necessarily with Dave, but we see it in Dave's apartment. And this little doll is possessed by the spirit of a fully realized Lord English. However, it is trapped and is not able to break free of his puppety prison until he is eventually used to create a figure known as Doc Scratch. We're not going to talk about Doc Scratch just yet, because we need to talk a little bit more about Little Cal and how time is crazy. So, Little Cal exists in both the Trolls timeline and the Kids timeline. By the way, the Troll session and the Alpha Kids session
No, the Beta Kids.
Oh, my bad. Yes, Beta. And the Beta Kids session are happening simultaneously. Once they enter the medium, things are essentially happening at the same time. Even though, technically, chronologically, the Trolls did their session first because they had to create the Beta Kids. Don't worry about it too much. For the sake of understanding, the medium exists outside of regular chronology. So, all sessions take place simultaneously. Anyways, Little Cal is essentially possessed by Lord English, and at one point he is sent to the Trolls universe and is then used to create Doc Scratch. However, a copy of him...
What's Doc Scratch?
Doc Scratch is Lord English's servant. He is...
Yeah, no, what literally is it? Like, is it a living being? Is it another doll?
He is a first guardian, which we're going to get to that in a minute.
I'm... Okay.
So
you can do it in 1 minute out of 17 that you have left.
Oh, God.
Oh,
okay.
Sorry. I miscounted. 13.
Thank you. So, Doc Scratch
Or is
is
that
a
23?
first... I'm going to have to speed this up then. So, Doc Scratch is a first guardian,
Yeah,
which
no,
is
it's
essentially
23. You're good.
when a universe is created and it is going to create another universe where it's prime for that. The planet that is going to have life will have a first guardian be created by the players retroactively, because that's how the game is played, more or less. You know, we love our stable time loops. And Doc Scratch was created with a magic pool ball and Little Cal, which is currently possessed by which is currently possessed by Lord English. It's confusing, I know. Lord English essentially creates the means needed for his master to come into the universe, and those means are the Scratch itself. The Scratch is something that a group of players can do to essentially give creating the universe another try when their session is doomed to fail.
So they start from scratch.
Yes.
Yes. In the Beta Kids session, it is a quite literal scratch where a giant record needs to be scratched with a needle, and then the universe is reset, which then creates the timeline for the Alpha Kids.
Okay, can I just say this? The idea of ending and restarting the universe with a record scratch is hilarious.
It is. There are several jokes made about it. Like, for example, the scratch in one of the interludes, or whatever it's called, the intermissions, is caused by Terezi, as like a joke, because she has like the Game 2 disc or whatever, and she accidentally causes a scratch on it, which then Doc Scratch repairs. Homestuck loves to do meta jokes and then in universe poke fun at its own meta jokes. It is extremely confusing.
I had to read this thing like 3 times to actually understand it, and I still barely understand it.
It's very confusing. Anyways, Doc Scratch creates the means to cause the scratch in the Beta Kids universe. And for that, he essentially helps the creation of Bec Noir. So, the Troll's first guardian is Doc Scratch. The Beta Kids, however, is Bec. Bec is a dog who is Jade's companion and is the good dog best friend. We love that dog. He is the goodest boy. We love him so much. He is the best dog.
I feel like there's either a joke here or you're really just really
I
like this
really
dog.
like this dog.
Bec is just best dog.
It's
Okay.
also a reference.
Oh yeah, it sounds like a reference. It sounds like when I'm describing that SCP that used to be a library.
Anyways,
Did you know it used to be a library?
it used to be a library. What about the rock that makes you procrastinate? We should probably finish that at some point.
Eventually, I don't know.
It's on my desk.
It would look. It was due Monday, but like, I'm sure,
We can
dude.
push it
My
back.
English professor like understands I've been having issues with Canvas, so he's gonna let me turn it in tonight.
Thanks.
That's true. I have
Uh,
an assignment due tonight because Canvas wasn't working.
Anyways, due to something called prototyping, remember that Jester doll that we mentioned before?
Uh-huh.
That got its arm cut off?
Yeah.
Before entering
20
the
minutes.
before entering the medium, I'm going to beat you with my hands. Punch, punch, punch. Let me speak. Did you say 20 or 12?
You have 20 minutes.
You said
13.
I
earlier.
corrected myself and you guys did not hear me.
No, you said it's like 15 first, and then you said 13.
No, you
And
said
then I
17 and then
realized that I
13.
miscounted and it was actually 23.
You said you miscounted and then said 13.
When you re-listened.
You can't do math.
I'm an architecture major, honey.
Yeah, exactly. That was the joke here.
Obviously.
Anyways,
When you listen back to this and post it on YouTube, you will text me and you'll be like, I'm so sorry, you did say 23. You're the best person ever. And
I
want
don't
to room with
listen
you.
to the whole thing. I listen to the first 5 minutes to make sure the audio levels are good.
Okay. Anyways, you
Real.
were saying, Nova.
Anyways, there's this thing called prototyping. So before entering the medium, any of the players that are going to be entering need to essentially take an item and throw it into this orb, which will then affect all creatures that they encounter in the...
The
Yeah.
kernel. Another programming joke.
Yeah. Well, it's the kernel sprite.
Yeah.
So they throw it into the kernel sprite. I wasn't saying its name for the sake of not having to worry about named things.
It's fine. You can just ignore it now.
Fair. They throw it into the thing, and whatever they throw in becomes part of the game. So that Jester missing an arm, that was the first thing thrown in.
And then it got possessed by his grandmother's ashes.
That was after he entered.
I know,
So it
but
doesn't matter right now.
The first prototyping is what matters.
Well, any prototyping's that happening before
Before they
entering the
enter.
medium. Rose actually prototypes twice before entering the medium. We can get to that later. I want to talk about Homestuck first.
I'm sorry. I showed Nova a little drawing I've been working on this entire time.
Yeah, and you're
Going
going
to
to burn
Continue.
Anyways, Rose prototypes a squid doll, so a Cthulhu princess squid doll, and her dead cat before she enters the medium. So those two things now become a part of the game. Dave prototypes, more it was Jade who prototyped it for him, but Dave's sprite was prototyped with a dead bird with a sword through it, and Jade Harley, with no choice in the matter, because of someone named Vriska Circuit, who we're not going to worry about right now, but know that this was Vriska's fault, more or less, but also not entirely Vriska's fault, but also it's still Vriska's fault. Everything in Homestuck is simultaneously both someone's fault and also not their fault at the same time.
What is it?
Anyways, Jade Harley's sprite is prototyped with Beck. I would like to note, Beck is connected to this power source known as the Green Sun, which makes anything that's connected to it nigh omnipotent and nigh powerful. They are essentially a lesser god. They are more or less all-knowing, except for the things that they don't know yet, and they are insanely powerful.
I'm all-knowing except for the things I don't know yet.
Not in the same way. So essentially,
I know all the things I know except for the things I don't know.
Basically, they don't know the future, but they know everything that happened in the past, I think.
No, they do know the future to some degree. So I'll explain it real quick because I have a fairly good grasp on it. There are pools of probability that exist. A first guardian is able to see these pools of probability, and for the most part, they have a good idea of what is going to happen, and they are able to essentially know what actions are going to lead to which pools. There are some pools that come out entirely spontaneously through actions that were extremely unlikely or that were thought to have no actual significance. For example, Jasp Rose Sprite was extremely insignificant at first, and then we got Nepeta Sprite, or Davepeta Sprite, which became significant. There are things that are expected to happen, known as the Alpha timeline, which are usually what these First Guardians can see ahead of time. Doc Scratch, being a First Guardian, uses to advantage to help his master, Lord English, come into being. Beck was just a dog. Anyways, so Jade prototypes Beck, not by choice. Beck prototypes himself. And when they enter the game, Jack Noir, who at this point is going on a murderous killing rampage after stealing a powerful artifact, which essentially gives him a very big power up, he's going on a rampage where he already has the powers of he has wings from the dead bird, though he is missing an arm because of that plush doll from earlier, and
Cute.
also he has like tentacle things, and also he's a princess cat. Whole lot of stuff. When Jade and Beck enter the medium, it goes crazy. Jack Noir now becomes Beck Noir. He now has the powers, along with almost every other creature in the game, of a First Guardian, which makes the game insanely difficult and nigh impossible, especially when Beck Noir is a homicidal maniac bent on killing everything. And when I say everything, I mean everything. However, there is one good part about this. Jade's sprite has Beck prototyped. After she enters the medium, she throws her dream self into it, and we're going to get to dream selves in a moment.
That's an important thing to talk about.
So she throws her dream self into it, essentially giving us now 2 Jades. I did a joke for myself and someone else later that I'm going to tell them. Where was I? So Jade and now Jade Sprite, because, you can never have too many Jades.
Speaking of Jade, Jade is actually incredibly important to the story.
Oh, she is incredibly important to the story, but she is given none of the foreground.
None
She
of
is entirely put into the background, which is extremely disappointing.
But it's also kind of funny.
Yes. Beck Noir, being part Beck, has a lot of the aspects of Beck. One of which is Beck's undying loyalty. Which means Beck Noir is unable to harm Jade in any way whatsoever, which is amazing, and I love it. I love Beck Noir because he's good boy best friend, but also crazy and terrible, and he's going to get everyone killed. Anyways, let's talk about what was I talking about? Dream Selves, yes, because after Dream Selves we should talk about Cascade and the events that happen in Cascade.
And
we should also talk about Doom timelines as well, and how sometimes they are required for the Alpha timeline. Anyway, Dream Selves. Part of the game is that there are the two sides, the good and the evil. The good side is Prospit. The bad side is Durst. One of the parts of entering the game is that when people go to sleep, they will inevitably wake up in their dream self, which is essentially another body for them, an extra life, if you will, on either Prospit or Durst. There's some factors that contribute to that, but they don't matter. The main parts about this is that on Prospit, when you look up at the clouds, you are able to see glimpses of the future, which can basically tell you what you should be doing, give you a good idea of what to do, essentially give you an idea of where to go. Very useful. Jade woke up before she ever even entered the medium, which gave her a very large advantage in the game. She had essentially she kind of always had an idea of what was going on in like a vague sense. It's like when you wake up from a dream and you get deja vu. She essentially had that. The Durst streamers, they get something arguably just as good. They get to talk to the Outer Gods. The Outer Gods are
basically Cthulhu.
Not just Cthulhu. All the eldritch gods that Lovecraft would have written about, more or less.
Yeah.
They are, for the most part, considered to be untrustworthy, and more or less, they do not want another universe to be created because they like the darkness or something. It doesn't really matter. What matters most is that they are usually untrustworthy, however, they can still provide boons to the players. Dave ignores the Outer Gods, for the most part. However, Rose, she takes a liking to them. She uses the boons that they give more or less to try and cheat her way through the game and break it, which causes some problems down the line, and eventually causes her to go grimdark when she becomes possessed by the Outer Gods themselves, and goes on a rampage to try and kill Beck Noir, which inevitably results in her death. Now, speaking of Dave, we're going to talk about Doom timelines. Because right now,
I was waiting for this, because
Yes.
like you mentioned it way earlier, and I said, this sounds like it would take longer than 10 minutes to explain.
Doom timelines are actually relatively simple. A Doom timeline is when something happens that would cause an offshoot. So remember when I talked about the Alpha timeline ever so slightly earlier, and how Doc Scratch and First Guardians can like see the future?
Mm-hmm.
So there are offshoots of the Alpha timeline, known as Doom timelines. They usually don't matter and will result in nothing really happening. However, a time player like Dave, by the way, we're not going to can we get into class specs? We're going to get into them very vaguely. When you enter
Basically, they give them special powers.
Yes, Dave is a time player, which means he has the ability to do time travel. One thing that Dave does is in a Doom timeline where John dies before he can bring Jade into the medium, him and Rose play for as long as they can. However, they are not able to they're not able to finish the game. They go as far as they can, and inevitably they stop playing.
Because you need a space player.
Yes, you need a space player.
To win, you need a time and a space.
Not necessarily.
No, that was the whole reason why the Alpha kids couldn't finish by themselves.
No, you need a space player and you need a knight. That's all you need. Because the knight is meant to help the space player with the frog breeding. By the way, in order to create the new universe, you have to breed a frog. You essentially have to breed the best frog by removing genetic traits rather than adding them. It's very weird and interesting. You essentially have to create a frog with like 0 genetics or something. They explain it very weirdly. We're going to move on from that though. So Doom Dave comes back from his Doom timeline, and he returns to the Alphaverse, or the Alpha timeline. And what he does is he prototypes himself. So now we have two Daves. We have Alpha Dave, which is the Dave that we more or less follow throughout the series, and also we have Dave Sprite. Some people refer to them as Bird Dave. In this one adventure, in this one MS Paint adventure I like, he is renamed to Crow, which I'm going to shell for the Crow Strider AU. Honestly, better than original Homestuck. They tie up a lot more loose ends. They still do leave some, but it's way better than the original. Anyways, I'm off my hot takes now. Doom timelines can sometimes affect the main timeline, but not all the time. Anyways, I forget where we were going with this. I remember now. We're working our way up to Cascade. So,
wasn't there a whole thing about not prototyping before you enter does funky things too?
that results in a null session. That's why they couldn't win.
Oh,
This can all be finished in 7 minutes,
Yes.
right?
We can finish.
I'm
it.
sorry. Normally, I'm not this pushy about time,
We
but
can
I
finish
know
in
that
I just want to get to Cascade, and we
I
can get to
talk
Cascade
about
in 7
Cascade.
minutes.
Just talk
Okay,
about
okay.
So,
Cascade.
Get the
before we can get to
Cascade out.
Cascade, we need to mention God tiering really quickly. So, one aspect of the game is something that can happen is when someone dies on something known as a dream bed, if their dream self is still alive, or if it's their dream self that dies on their quest bed, they will go God tier.
You don't even need to die on the bed. Your dead body needs to be on the bed at some
No,
point.
you need to die it.
No, because Jade
Jade
died.
was like still alive.
No, Jade died, and Bac Noir brings her to the bed.
I don't think she was dead
No,
just
she
yet.
was dead.
That's right. They did say dead. Anyways, okay. I will secede on that point, or I will cede that point, whatever the word is. Anyways, when you go God tier, you essentially are fully realized in your powers, more or less, and you get a huge boost, and you are conditionally immortal. You can only die if your death is either heroic or just. Any other death will not count. You will essentially just come back to
Fascinating.
life. Yes. So, John dies once after he God tiers, but it is not heroic or just, so he comes back to life. I'm going to skip all the way
Is
to
this what you meant when you said you can get attached to the characters because death won't count?
Death sometimes counts, sometimes it doesn't. People die, sometimes they don't.
One of the many forms of Vriska dies.
Yes. By the time we get to Cascade, Doc Scratch has convinced Rose and Dave to go on a mission to blow up, and I'm using those words very carefully, blow up the Green Sun. Because the Green Sun is the source of Bac Noir's powers, and they want to get rid of Bac Noir so they can win the game. So they have agreed to help Doc Scratch, but also help themselves by blowing up the Green Sun. Anyways, Rose and Dave have to go on a suicide mission with this thing called the tumor, which is supposed to blow up the Green Sun. To do so, however, they need to go to past the outer rim outside the bounds of their session. And Rose and Dave, both of their real selves, have died, so now they are currently living through their dream selves. So both Rose and Dave go out to the outer rim with their... This is the events of Cascade, by the way. We are at Cascade. Rose and Dave are out in the outer rim with the thing called the tumor. And Jade has just been killed, and her body is being brought to... The events of Cascade are impossible to really put into...
You need to watch The Flash.
It is really hard to talk about Cascade without watching it, because it is like 3 years worth of build-up?
Yeah.
At least.
It is something.
It is intense. It is probably one of the best flashes in all of Homestuck. Even if you know nothing about Homestuck, I would suggest still watching it to some degree, because it is just crazy. So much happens, so much is built up and pays off. Anyways, after Jade dies, she is brought to her quest bed by Bac Noir, because Beck is very loyal, and that goes through even to the murderous psychopath who is holding her. Jade goes God tier, and she becomes a fully realized Maid of Space. John is initiating the Scratch as a fully realized heir of breath, and Rose and Dave, when they finally get to where they need to use the tumor, find that it is a bomb and that there is no there is no green sun actually there. They delve into the center of Durst's moon, which they have cut off from Durst and have used as basically a spaceship to the outer rim, and find 2 quest beds waiting for them at the center of it. They wait on their quest beds for the bomb to go off, which is powered by simultaneous or circumstantial simultaneity, which essentially happens when 2 things occur simultaneously. If I remember right, what were the 2 things that caused it to go off? I know it was the Black Queen dying in the Trolls universe, but what happened in the Beta Kids universe?
I don't remember, honestly.
It couldn't have been the death. It might have been the death of the White Queen, actually.
Possibly.
And that's probably what it was, because after, that would have had to been it. Because once Bec Noir essentially had Jade killed, he leaves and goes to the Wastelanders, and then goes and kills the White Queen. So both the White Queen from the Beta Kids universe and the Black Queen from the Trolls universe die at the same time, and this creates the Green Sun. It blows it up, taking it from nothing to existing. It blows it up. It is a very funny messing around with words, and Doc Scratch essentially taunts them for it right before his death. So Rose and Dave go god tier, becoming fully realized seers of light and knights of time, respectively, and they also find themselves meeting the trolls finally in person. That's most of the events of Cascade. Oh, also Jade takes John herself and basically their entire session with them to what would become the Alpha Kids session.
Oh yeah, and then
Should we have put a spoiler warning on this?
This comic is...
It's long. Even if you remember all this, the way that I'm describing it is not doing the Flash any justice.
This comic is like 13 years old.
I am
Yeah,
being
fair.
told that I am confusing and ridiculous. This is great. I love this.
Who are you getting this information from?
My polycule.
Oh yeah,
Oh, they're
they,
listening.
Yes.
they quite
Hello,
literally break the
Polycule.
4th
Hello.
wall. I'm not...
Shout out to Cece and Harley, and also hi Damien and Juniper. How y'all doing?
Shout out to Nova's Polycule.
Sorry that you had to listen to this for an hour.
Sorry guys.
But yeah, so in the story, they quite literally break the 4th wall. I'm not
Several
joking.
times.
No, genuinely.
Oh,
They
yeah.
go through the 4th wall.
Well, the 4th wall essentially was in the Trolls universe, actually.
I know.
We're out of time.
We're officially out of time, ladies and gentlemen and others.
Anyways, I don't know how else to finish this off. Homestuck is crazy. Don't read it, except also do because it's crazy and I love it.
If you're okay with mind-melting stories, yes, read it. We didn't even talk about the cherubs.
The cherubs are crazy. That is like a part 2 discussion.
Yes.
Oh boy.
Can
Maybe
we
you
should do a
come back
second
and we
episode of
continue
this.
Do we need a second episode of
Yes.
Homestuck?
Eventually.
Please. I'm begging.
Okay.
You're gonna have to fly me in
we
for
are
that one.
We are actually over time.
We're officially over time, so unfortunately, folks, I'm gonna have to call it here. But if you ever, for some reason, want to come find us or something, I'm the short person with the purple hair and probably usually dressed in pajamas. It's been a hell of a month. Victoria?
You will hear me before you see me.
And I'm the girl with a witch hat and multiple personalities.
So, yeah, that's how you find all of us. It's been a pleasure. Bye-bye.